A 2023 study from the PFA revealed that 68% of players have suffered with mental health issues due to fear of injury. At plenty of non-league clubs, they simply don't have the staff or the facilities to take care of an injured player, which means players often have to fund their own recovery and get back to full fitness, both physically and mentally, by themselves. I'm here at Gloucester City Women to speak to one of their players about the impact of her injury and how she got back to full fitness. So just talk to me about your initial injury and what actually happened on the pitch.
Yeah, okay. So I played right fullback, and I was passed the ball from my midfielder out wide, and so I dribbled up the line, and one of their defenders was coming at me, I would say relatively straight on, a little bit at an angle. And so I decided that ultimately my end goal was to cross the ball. So I needed to get around her, or I needed to go inside of her, and I was running full pace, so I couldn't go inside of her. So I took too big of a touch down line, and I was right on the end line, and I made the unfortunate decision to cross the ball from where I was. I crossed the ball, my right leg and my right hip went around as they would, and my left leg, everything stayed where it was. And then I felt a pop, and the best way I could describe how it sounded was if you like fold a belt in half and you like loosen it and then you tighten it really quickly. And then I fell to the ground and I was crying, and it hurt really bad, like really bad.
And what was that initial feeling like, just sort of dropping to the ground? And
I really want to say my initial feeling was thinking about like school and soccer first and everything, and then especially like, okay, what I was end goal. I was like, what am I supposed to do if I need to have surgery? How am I supposed to get there? What am I supposed to do? I was in nursing at the time, so I was like, I'm gonna miss on so many different hours and different opportunities. And then also, like what? Why? And then I eventually just kind of, I think it was one of our forwards had come up to me, and then I guess like her being there kind of brought me back into like what was happening right then and there. And then I was really just thinking about like, this hurts so bad. And I also didn't want anyone to look at it because I knew I had dislocated my knee, but I didn't know if it was still out of place or what. And I just did not want anyone to tell me what it looked like. So when Chris came over, he was very distraught. What I was told, again, I don't really remember what was going on around me at the time. What I was told was that the play had just carried on, and David, one of our volunteers, he was apparently screaming at the ref to tell him to stop play. All of our forwards had stopped playing, and yeah, I think that was it. And then eventually I just remember everyone coming at me, like Chris, a few more girls. I know Maggie was there, and then they all had the stretcher. I was stretchered off. I went downstairs into the locker room, and one of the moms was down there, as well as two other players who were also injured. And then I want to say it might have been Chris or Darren as well. But I really just stayed on the stretcher, and I just like cried for a very long time. And then I ultimately decided like I need to get up. And so I tried getting up, and I could not change the position of my leg where it was. It wasn't 90 degrees, like bent, but it was pretty bent. And so I couldn't straighten it, and I didn't want to move my hip. I didn't want to do anything with it. And so I needed that mom to help me up, as well as one of the players to help me up. And then I took like the tiniest little baby steps to get out to the parking lot here where David had pulled up his car. And he took me to hospital after that. And we just sat in A&E for a really long time. And then I described everything that happened to the doctor. And then he literally told me, because I described I felt a pop and I heard a pop. And he told me like, oh, like a pop doesn't necessarily mean like anything's wrong. And I was like, I'm telling you something's wrong. And he was just like, whatever. He gave me a pair of crutches and then told me that they were going to schedule me for an MRI, which I never got. So.
And then what was the initial recovery situation for that, like obviously having to go back home? And
yeah, so it was right before Christmas time. So I was on crutches for 2 weeks because I wasn't told otherwise. And then I went back home and I saw a specialist there, and he basically told me that I needed to be walking the entire time. And I was like, well, no one told me that, so I didn't know that. You know what not? And then we got an MRI. We also did an x-ray there as well. Got an MRI, and then those results came back, and he just told me I dislocated it. And so I was like, okay, fine. And so then we just did recovery based on just a dislocated knee. So that's just like strengthening the area around it, quads, hamstrings. And I went to PT, and I was just doing basically what the PT had given me. And then eventually I was cleared to start running and playing again.
And then, you spoke to me before about how it was misdiagnosed and how you went through a lot that you probably shouldn't have had to go through. What was it like sort of finding out this is what actually happened?
Yeah, so I had 2 MRIs at home because after Christmas I came back, did everything I was supposed to do, started playing again, complained to Johnny that it was still hurting the same amount that I was hurting before. So then over summer break, I got an MRI, and he just told me like the exact same thing that he told me the first time. I was like, oh, you just like dislocated it, you have bone bruising. And I was just like, okay, like whatever. Came back, still playing as I would with a taped knee, still hurting, and I was just very adamant that something was wrong. Then he was like, okay, well, we can go get another MRI. And I was just like, I was so sick of getting MRIs at this point because I'm just like, it's the same thing. They're not going to tell me anything different. They see what they see on it. Like, nothing's going to change. And so I got another MRI, and he told me that I tore my ACL. And I was like, okay, like, that's a very common thing to do. How is this missed? So I was really confused, ultimately, and also frustrated, obviously. But yeah.
And then you find out that it wasn't even your ACL, it was your MPFL?
Yes, yeah. So I was like, okay, we went in to do the ACL reconstruction, and then they were in for like 30 minutes, I want to say. And then like Maggie and my mom weren't even back to the hospital yet because they went with me, and they had to rush back because they're like, oh, what, like they didn't expect it to take that amount of time. And then he was like, yeah, it's not her ACL, it's her MPFL. And so my mom was like, well, what? Like, what? And it was just really, confusing and not the best day.
Obviously, an international student, you're not only missing the football season, but you're missing, you're missing part of your education. How did you sort of deal with that?
I don't really know. I kind of just like did it. I emailed all of my teachers and whatnot for nursing and the hospital I had placement at the time, and just told them like I can't do it. And they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So that was initially, and then I went back to school for nursing and just kind of carried on, but it was always in the back of my mind I was going to have to make up, like, I think it was around like 400 hours or something like that, and I really, really did not want to do that because there's just like, I would have to do it over summer, and then like I really need that time at home because just I need that change of pace, different, going back home to something familiar, and I really didn't want to do it over summer. So that was just like what was in the back of my mind the entire time. It was like, I'm gonna have to make up all these hours at some point that I don't want to do.
For a lot of players, it's probably quite difficult to deal with an injury at any level, but I think to deal with it at this level, when you sort of have to manage your own recovery, a lot of clubs will have a whole team of people who can say, this is what's happened, this is how you can treat it, but you were sort of left on your own to sort of manage your own recovery. How did you find that? Yeah,
I mean, I did do PT at home with a doctor I was familiar with, because when I initially went in, for just the dislocation, I saw the same doctor. So I saw her again whenever I actually had my surgery. But a lot of it's on your own, and a lot of it is you have to be very disciplined. You have to really want to get better, and I just wanted to get better, I guess. Like, I mean, you want to get better, so you do it, and you do what you're supposed to do. But you also have to like really listen to yourself, because there are some days it's like, okay, I feel like I can do this, and I feel like I can lift this, but you just feel like weaker on your one side. It's also weird because it was just like one side. It's not like your back was like the whole thing. I feel strong and I feel right in my right leg, and I know I can do it, but your left leg you can't. So then you have to just be careful about compensating on your good leg. And so I also had to be very mindful of that, because I really did not want to like come out uneven in strength.
Yeah, and you said there about you sort of have to, you know, you're managing your injury and you're sort of like, I want to do this, but I can't.
Yeah.
And then also on the pitch,
Yeah.
you said before about how you were watching the team like do well and they're winning, and you're not a part of it. How tough was that to deal with?
It's just hard to, I think it's hard to just think about how life goes on without you. Like, you know, people obviously are unfortunate that you're not on the team and not playing, but they have to be able to continue what they're doing. Like, I don't think anyone is important enough on a team where they should not be able to function. I don't think that's good at all for you not to be able to function without a certain player. But it's always like, I guess you have to come to terms with the fact you're not as important as you think you are. And there's definitely like a difference between how well, you know, your position does and whatnot. And there's different playing styles for each player. But I think it was just like a hard pill to swallow. Like, you're really not that important. Like, you're really not. Like, it's like people care that you're not there, but they don't care because they have to, life goes on.
And then when you initially came back, how was that feeling? Were you just relieved to finally be playing again? What was going through your head?
Yeah, I was initially relieved because, you know, I just wanted to be back out there again. But also in the back of my mind, I know plenty of women who have torn their knees. They've torn their ACLs, so not the same ligament, but they have re-ruptured it, like 2 weeks getting back into practice, and it's literally just running. It's not doing anything serious at all, not going up against anyone. They're just running, and so I was just like, I need to make it through like a month of not hurting anything at all. So I think it was that. Like, just don't get injured again doing something stupid. But it's definitely very relieving going back out there and just being a part of it. And you obviously have to know that you are not going to be the same as what you were whenever you left the field last time. But you're out there, you're doing it. Like, you're good enough.
I've read a stat, it was something like 68% of players, sort of like the biggest thing to do with their mental health is actually the fear of getting injured.
Oh my God, no. I got injured over there, literally in that corner, and Yoan, at the time, he would come out on Wednesdays and do individual stuff with us, or if anyone was injured, he would kind of take us while practice was going on, and he made me go over there and just try to cross the ball, and I broke down in tears. I could not do it. It was so difficult. I couldn't even it was hard for me to even just pass it from that angle, not even just cross it, just pass it. And I was just like, I could not do it. So that was just so difficult. And even now, like, trying to think of crossing the ball, there's that little bit of that intrusive thought that's just like, you're gonna hurt yourself again. Like, it's gonna happen. It happened once, it can happen again. But it's like, then, you know, the cross is successful, like, I do it, and I'm just like, I'm literally fine. It's okay.
What do you think was the best thing for you to sort of get over that stumbling block to say, I can go in this corner of the pitch, I can cross a ball,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to hurt myself because I've done it so many times before?
Yeah, definitely time. I needed a lot of time, still do sometimes. And also just shooting, because shooting is a very similar movement. It's a very powerful movement like crossing is, but I don't have to go across my body to do it as harshly as you would for a cross. So I think once I was able to actually shoot the ball and feel okay with that, I was like, okay, I have the power, I can do it straight, you know, I'm still balancing on that one leg, so I can go out there and try to do crosses.
How supportive were the club in this? Obviously, you've got to go all the way back home, you've got to sort of just leave for the season. How did you find the club were?
Yeah, well, Johnny and Yoan were great because they actually listened to me. Johnny was great because I kept saying something's wrong, this doesn't feel right, you know, this taping isn't working. We would try a bunch of different things, and then he would communicate that with Yoan and do strengthening things, and I was like, I really don't think anything's helping. So he helped me get that MRI to actually be seen, and then he knew the doctor that did my surgery, so he was able to get me an appointment there. And then Chris was great because he helped me for the first surgery. He helped me go to and from the hospital then, and he also took Maggie and my mom. So yeah, there was definitely some very supportive people.
And then in terms of your family and your teammates, how supportive were they?
Oh yeah, they were great. I mean, my mom was here. She was, I want to say it was December I got my surgery. So around a month she was here. and then made sure I was well enough to go back on the plane because I had to wait so long to actually fly home for like blood clotting reasons. And then team was great. First time I had my surgery, I was really insistent on coming back here because they had practice that night. And because I was supposed to have my ACL done, they gave me a lot more anesthetic than I should have had. So I was just kind of just down here, and they all met me in the locker room down there, and all like were asking how I was feeling, but I wasn't really all with it. And then when I actually had my surgery, Maggie was great because she organized like this little care package, and then she had everyone sign a really big card, and then also a smaller card that was actually a part of the whole care package. So everyone was great. And then they asked me how I was doing and whatnot, and even if something goes like a little wrong, like I might have rolled my ankle or something, they always ask like, are you okay? Is your knee okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
No, you're still saying I have some problems, I still think that fear of getting injured, but then everyone's still so supportive even this far down the line.
Yeah, I would say that is very nice, very helpful. It definitely helped me a lot, but it also, it can only help for so much because you have to figure out yourself, like you need to do it yourself. No one can sit there and make me cross a ball. No one can sit there and you can sit there and it's gonna be okay, like it's gonna be fine. And I was like, but you don't know that. It was fine every other time I crossed it except that one time. So it's really just that at the end of the day, it's the mental battle with yourself, and obviously helping those people helps a ton.